What's up, guys? Ted from Nerd Immersion.
I gotta stop doing finger guns.
You do?
I do finger guns all the time. Uncle Sean from Nerd Immersion.
And we are back for the next part in our Dungeons & Dragons review. Having just finished the Player's Handbook, we are now moving on to the second of the trilogy of core books, the Monster Manual.
I just hurt my shoulder. Throwing out the book exuberantly.
This one's going to be a lot shorter than the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master Guide review that we're going to do, because there's just not as much to talk about. I mean, there are plenty of monsters in the Monster Manual, but as far as different mechanics and things like that, there's really not that much to discuss. A lot of the classic, favorites make a comeback.
Yes.
There's a couple of new monsters here and there, and I highly recommend that you review any monster that you previously thought you knew, because they may have changed
drastically
a mechanic or a history or what that creature is, like you said, drastically from how they were previously.
Like gnolls.
Yes. Gnolls were just a race of hyena people in previous editions. Now they're like a demon spawn of some demon god of hyena people.
Demon.
Yeah, and I think they can bite people and transfer the Gnoll transformation, sort of like lycanthropy, but it's a permanent transformation. Something like that.
No.
So very different from previous editions. Yeah. So what do you think?
It's good. I just lost my page. Really cool art. I just noticed that on the lycanthropes page, I swear to God, it's Beast fighting Gaston.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely Beast fighting Gaston. It's really cool. Very well done. Yeah, cool art. Very well described. Do they have lair actions in other versions?
No. Not that I'm aware of. Anyway.
Talk about lair actions, and then I have a point on lair actions.
Okay. Because of the way the system is designed, like we mentioned in the Player's Handbook stuff, with the bounded accuracy of, like, the most you're ever going to have to hit something is 11 before the roll, minus, special circumstances. They can only do so much with the monsters before they get, like, out of control. Like, their AC can only be so high, or you'll never be able to hit them.
Yeah.
And, like, their resistances and things like that can only be so high, otherwise their spells won't do any damage. So one of the ways they made some characters and monsters more difficult is they added a lair action. And what a lair action is when that monster is in its lair and you are attacking it, it has access to certain things that it can do that it normally couldn't do. So if you were to say, I don't know, why don't we flip to a dragon?
I just happened to not hit that page. So that's good.
So, for instance, if you were to fight a whatever color dragon Sean flips to, the ancient version...
Young black.
It would have to be an ancient black.
Alright, fine. Ancient black.
I don't think youngs get access to lair actions.
It doesn't say. Just says black dragons.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Black dragons. They get lair actions.
Whatever.
Read it. Okay.
So why don't you give me a lair action?
Lair action. Pools of water that dragon can see within 120 feet surge outward in a grasping tide. Any creature on the ground within 20 feet of such a pool must succeed a DC 15 strength save or be pulled up to 20 feet into the water and knocked prone.
There you go. That's one thing that if you were to fight the dragon out in the air, out on land, or not in its lair, it would not have access to that ability. So it's much more dangerous to take on, and it makes sense to take on a higher level monster in its own turf. Mm-hmm. So you want to try to separate them from their own domain and fight them outside if you can. Otherwise, you might be in for a lot tougher fight than you thought you'd be in.
Yeah.
So you
yeah, there's just for the lair actions. It's kind of awkwardly worded, but it says for almost all the ones I've seen, on initiative count 20, losing initiative tithes, the dragon takes a lair action. And I just never heard that worded that way, initiative count 20. So when I read it, I threw in like a space on initiative, count 20, and I have no idea what that means, but it just means that the lair has an initiative of 20.
Right. So it's just one more thing to keep track of when you're doing your initiative. So obviously if your players all roll higher, they go before the lair action, which is a potentially problematic thing for them. If they all roll lower, they're going to get hit with the lair action, and then potentially whatever the enemy's action is, and before they get to go. So they could be hurting or possibly even dead before they actually get to take an action of any kind. So something to keep an eye out for. So what else do you like while I take a quick flip through here?
I don't know, they're good monsters. They're good. And,
Would you talk about challenge rating?
yeah, don't. Challenge rating. No. All monsters have a challenge rating. Challenge rating is a good fight for 4 players of that level. So a monster with a challenge rating of 6 is a good fight for 6
For
4 6th level characters. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they got challenge ratings all over the map there, and yeah, use them because they're there. They're helpful.
There's not a lot of ton of higher level monsters, but again, that's where the higher challenge rating monsters. That's where the lair action comes in, or potentially as the DM to add more of said monsters.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be mindful of that, of how you're going to balance that, because if you have 4 or 6, level 10 characters, potentially adding 2 challenge rating 10 monsters could be too much. I'm trying to see. I think it's in the back of this book. They have the deadly encounter situation. There's challenge rating is one way to determine an encounter, and I believe in here there's another way to develop it based on the experience that the party would gain. And it might be in the Dungeon Master.
I think it's
Guide.
in the Dungeon Master's Guide. There's like a whole thing.
Yeah, to tell you, this is a deadly encounter. If the characters, you take this level, the characters will gain X amount of experience from this encounter, then this is classified as a deadly encounter, so that way you know that it's very difficult. They could potentially win, but don't expect them to.
Yeah.
It goes over a bunch of different types of abilities that monsters have, some things you might not see in the player's handbook, things like blind sight. It also has this is really the first time you'll encounter limited use abilities. Do you want to talk about how those work, like something with a recharge, like a dragon's breath?
Oh, yeah. Limited use weapons, stuff like that, they'll have like recharge 5/6. And what that means is the dragon uses its breath weapon. That was me using my breath weapon.
Gotcha.
And then you roll a d6. On a 5 or a 6, you get it back. On 1, 2, 3, or 4, you don't. And then every turn, if you don't have it back, you roll the d6 again and see if you will breathe more stuff.
Yeah. There's also some things that are limited to once a day. And again, for the lair actions, there's also a thing called like regional effects, where it's just
cool.
it's basically I don't have an example here, but it's essentially the equivalent of, because a legendary creature inhabiting that area, just the general innate magic of that creature causes changes to the area.
One of the ones that I remember is Green Dragon. One of their regional effects is they leave no tracks, no evidence that they have come through their region unless they want to. And they have like squirrel spies or something. I think that's the technical term, squirrel spies.
There are also legendary actions are a thing aside for legendary creatures. And some of them are limited use. Like I'm looking at the Ancient Gold Dragon right here. The dragon can take 3 legendary actions, choosing from the list below. Only 1 legendary action can be used at any time, and only at the end of another creature's turn. The dragon regains spent legendary actions at the start of its turn. And for the Gold Dragon, they are Detect. The dragon makes a Wisdom Perception check, because it's just a reminder to do something like make a perception check. To specifically make one yourself during combat is an action, using like the search action. A Tail Attack, which is one of the only, it can make the tail attack basically for free, or a Wing Attack, which costs 2 of its actions. The dragon beats his wings. Each creature within 15 feet must succeed on a DC 25 Dex saving throw, or take 17 bludgeoning damage and be knocked prone. The dragon can then only move at half of its fly speed. So the interesting thing with the legendary actions is they can only be taken at the end of another player's turn. So the dragon can't hit you with its breath weapon and then just lay you out with a Wing Attack immediately after. There's nothing stopping it from using it immediately after the next turn, but it's just an interesting mechanic. And again, it gets there's also things that get legendary resistance, which is one of the most OP things in the game. they can just choose to pass a saving throw that they failed. And that's like 3 times a day.
Yeah.
So, ridiculous. So you gotta, as a player, if you know that that's a thing, you sort of maybe have to metagame that a little bit. Potentially. You don't have to, you probably shouldn't, but, like, if I blow my 9th level spell on the dragon the first turn, it'll just pass.
Yeah.
And then, like, I have 1 9th level spell and now it's gone. Something different from in this edition, from previous editions, there's no equipment tied to any of the monsters. The only thing you'll have under is the challenge rating, what the challenge rating number is, and then next to it has the amount of experience for you as a quick reference, so you don't have to go flip back. So if you were to defeat an ancient gold dragon, it would award 36,500 experience. But the difficult part is you kill this dragon, or you kill, whatever, and there's nothing that tells you what you would find on that creature. Would the creature have any magic items on them? Would they have any gold on them? If you kill a dragon, would the dragon have a hoard? Obviously, we know that that's a thing from the beginning description of a dragon, but they don't tell you what to find in it. Which was really interesting to me, because you could have had the player's handbook and the monster manual to expand the amount of things you could fight, but no way of knowing what to reward as treasure and things like that for the characters until the Dungeon Master Guide came out several months later.
It tells you mundane things, like if you fight a lizard person, he has a club and a shield. But it doesn't, list them. It's basically, you look at their AC, and their AC says blank with a shield, this without, and its attack says club, and, certain other monsters will say chain shirt, and this is why their AC is that way. So, it lists mundane equipment, but not gold, not treasure, not anything fun.
Yeah, it says right here, some may use weapons, some may use armor. You can equip monsters with additional gear and trinkets how you like, using the equipment chapter of the player's handbook for inspiration, and decide how much of a monster's equipment is recoverable after the creature is slain and whether any of the equipment is still usable. Battered suit of armor made for a monster is rarely usable by someone else, for instance. Spellcasting monster needs material components to cast its spells. Assume that it has those material components. Again, that's a lot of legwork for you, and you kill a dragon in its lair, you have no concept of what to give for its hoard except for gold, and still no real idea on what to do for that.
No, you just gotta make it up.
And gold is, as we've talked about in the player's handbook, gold, you get to a point where it's useless.
Yeah.
You just have so much gold. We can talk about that from a pre-written campaign perspective, which, theoretically should be balanced, because it's designed by, it's approved of Wizards of the Coast, but, yeah. So, any more comments on the monster manual itself? No?
No, it was good.
Alright, favorite monster?
You.
Why does it always go to me first?
No, you're my favorite monster.
Oh, I'm his favorite monster. Nice.
The T's. It's under T.
Yeah?
Dead.
I'm in there. But seriously.
Bullywug. Only because of the name. I think Bullywug is an awesome fake word. Bullywugs.
Okay.
You?
It's kind of tricky, again, because, I haven't sat and read through every individual monster, and like I said, when I read Knowles, it blew my mind. Yeah. Because they're completely different. So, oh, wow, that was a big one that we almost forgot.
No.
There's no playable races.
Oh, yeah!
There is, in previous editions, you might look up under, a monster, and it'd say, okay, if you wanted to play this as a player character, here are the statistics to use, and then a potential level adjustment, which was that this is so powerful that essentially this creature, to start playing as this creature, if it had a level adjustment of 2, when all the other characters are level 2, this character is essentially level 0. Because it's so powerful that it needs to be set back. Potentially that character only ever reaching level 18 rather than level 20 because of the level adjustment. That is not a thing in this book, which is unfortunate because there are no expanded races. You can whatever's in the player's handbook and then, added later in supplemental documents. So there is, if you really wanted to play a kobold, you can see them in here, but you would have to house rule how to play a kobold, or a half dragon, or, a gnoll. So that's just something else to be mindful of if you were expecting to find that.
Not gonna find it. Not gonna find it.
I don't know. It's probably a toss-up between the new Knoll, just because of how cool it is, and maybe Flumphs, because they're weird, and I like that. They're a malevolent being that lives in the Underdark. So that's that. Monster Manual. If you're gonna look for any of these books, check around. I always say support your local game store because it's an important thing to do. But realistically, you can probably find them for $10 to $15 cheaper on something like an Amazon.
Yeah.
And you can get it in 2 days. Or you can go and pick it up personally, but... Anything else?
No. I like your shirt.
Thank you. Look at how themed that is.
No finger guns. See? Look at me go.